But it's just something that's it's just not a good feeling to watch this man get you to within 2 games of a berth to the NBA Finals, and he's gone, but Leon Rose, the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks, stays when you're the one that elected to trade 5 first-round picks, 4 unprotected, to the Brooklyn Nets for Mikal Bridges. Ain't that some weak-ass shit of a statement?
Damn, Steven crashing out.
You can't tell anybody why? This is the problem with the New York Knicks. But if there's some coaching search and you don't know definitively who you want or who you're going to bring on board when you made this move to let Tibs go, it looks like Tibs got screwed. I got 4 names that I want to be prime candidates for this job. Are y'all ready for this one? This is the 5th one, the last one that I'll throw out there for everybody to hear. How about the lead assistant for
Stephen A. Smith goes off on the New York Knicks for firing Tom Thibodeau. Check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back with my comments.
Is because the New York Knicks, all right? The New York Knicks have decided that after 5 years, it was time to fire Coach Tom Thibodeau.
Damn,
Tom
Tibs.
Thibodeau today was relieved of his duties just a couple of days after the New York Knicks were unceremoniously removed from the NBA playoffs, courtesy of the Indiana Pacers, who beat them in 6 games to head to the NBA Finals while Tom Thibodeau is without a job.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Usually the coach is the first one to go and then the front office, but it looks like they're going to keep Leon Rose. He's on board, and they had to let go of Tibs, so it is what it is, you know. The coach got to go, even though Karl Anthony Towns didn't play good on defense. They traded all those picks for Mikal Bridges. They kind of set up Coach Tibs for failure. You don't got no players on the bench, even though he was kind of reluctant to play people until injuries happen and foul trouble. But still, Tibs is a good coach. He's going to get another opportunity, but it's unfortunate the Knicks had to let him go.
This is a man that guided the New York Knicks to 51 wins this season, a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. He's also somebody, ladies and gentlemen, I've been very, very critical of. I've been very, very critical of from the standpoint that I wish the man used this bench more. I remember that Kenny Smith, I said before, and I'll say it again, it was the line of the year when Kenny Smith, the TNT, said, quote, Tom Thibodeau wouldn't want to play 9 dudes in a baseball game. That is absolutely true.
Well, in his defense, they didn't really have a lot of good players on the bench. Couple people, but nothing really amazing. So he had no choice but to kind of run the starters to the ground. They're going to have to do a lot of work in the offseason to bolster that roster on the bench. But he had to do what he had to do as far as the players that he had. And he found a couple diamonds in the rough, but still, they got to get better. This roster's lacking. Indiana had a complete team. The Knicks, they had a decent starting group. Throwing Mitchell, they were decent, but they got to get better roster-wise if they want to compete next season.
So you'll run starters into the ground. You know, you don't utilize your bench. You don't work diligently enough on the bench to make sure that you got deep enough you got a deep enough bench to utilize, a la Indiana and OKC, participants in this upcoming NBA Finals who go 9, 10, sometimes 11 deep. That ain't Tom Thibodeau. And I understand that. But it's just something it's just not a good feeling to watch this man get you to within 2 games of a berth to the NBA Finals, and he's gone, but Leon Rose, the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks, stays when you're the one that elected to trade 5 first-round picks, 4 unprotected, to the Brooklyn Nets for Mikal Bridges.
Yeah, that was a bad move. It looks good as far as if you had a championship team, and then you bring in Bridges, but they were still building a team. Jalen Brunson wanted his old college teammate. It makes sense. You want to make sure you please your star player, your franchise player. But to trade all those first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, you don't go all out for Bridges. That's a KD in his prime. That's a James Harden in his prime. That's a Giannis. Think about if they had those picks and they could have got a Giannis Antetokounmpo. That would have been a great trade. Get all those first-round picks, couple players, and you try to get a Giannis. But a Mikal Bridges, that was terrible by the front office. Leon Rose is eventually going to lose his job if the Knicks don't compete for a championship next season.
There's something that's just wrong with that picture. Mikal Bridges is a damn good player. Mikal Bridges is Mr. Reliable. Can give you 17 to 19 a game. He's going to play 75 to 82 games a regular season for you, Mr. Iron Man. He's very reliable, very dependable, a damn good player, a damn good defensive player, but there's nothing about him that's elite.
Nah, you don't trade that.
He's never been an all-star. And you give up 5 first-round picks for him? 4 unprotected?
I don't care. You don't do it.
That is what Tom Thibodeau did. That's what the New York Knicks did. That is what Leon Rose did. But Tom Thibodeau's out of a job?
That's how it goes.
At some point in time, it's about being fair. It's about being fair. If Ty Lue is out there, I'm good with it. If Eric Spoelstra's out there, I'm good with it. Mike Malone might be available for the job. He is available for the job. I don't know if the Knicks are going to hire him. Former head coach for the Denver Nuggets who won a championship a couple of years ago. I got that part because Tom Thibodeau never coached in the NBA Finals as a head coach where Michael Malone won one. I got that part. Jay Wright out of Villanova, 2-time national champion, who coached Brunson, who coached Mikal Bridges, who coached Josh Hart when they were in college at Villanova. I'm hearing his name. Don't know how much truth there is to that. I personally think Rick Brunson, the father of Jalen Brunson, former standout player at Temple University, an assistant coach on the bench with Tom Thibodeau, who has the pulse of the players. I don't mind that at all. But that's something we could get into in the days and the weeks down the road, right?
Yeah, as far as the next coach for the Knicks, the people that he listed, they're decent. Mike Malone, possibility, but he's like the Western Conference version of Coach Tibs, so I don't think they're going to get him on board. Rick Brunson, Jalen Brunson's dad, could be a viable choice by him having a post to the locker room. Every time they panned out the timeouts, you always seen Rick Brunson on the screen, so that lets you know he has the potential to be the coach. That could be a decent move. You got Mark Jackson. That could be another great coach that they should consider. Bringing him on board to New York, that'd be solid. Jeff Van Gundy could be a possibility. So there's a lot of decent coaches out there. But again, you're going to need better player personnel when you're rebuilding this team, the coaching staff. You can't just bring in a decent to good coach. Then you had the same players. You're pretty much going to get right back where you left off, maybe the second or third round, East Finals, and you'll be bounced out in 6 or 7 games. They got to get better roster-wise before they hire that next coach.
Right now, the issue is Tom Thibodeau. Why the hell is he out of a job?
Coaches go first.
Again. He's not flawless. Again, there have been times where I've been critical of Tom Thibodeau, no doubt. But for him to guide the Knicks as deep as they did, for him to upend Boston, and I want to hear about no injury to Jason Tatum because Jason Tatum went down with about a couple of minutes left in Game 3, and the Knicks were about to go up 3-1.
Yeah, no excuse.
And he was healthy when the Knicks beat Boston games 1 and 2 in Boston of that Eastern Conference semifinal series.
Yeah, they had the number.
So I'm looking at all of that and I'm saying, yo, we got to call it like it is. We got to call it like he see it. Look at the roster of the New York Knicks. Tom Thibodeau is a defensive-minded coach. Is it possible? Is it plausible? Does it make sense, ladies and gentlemen, for us to look at Leon Rose and the New York Knicks and say, yo, you kind of compromised him because he's a defensive-minded coach. And that you kept Hartenstein and a Julius Randle and a Dante DiVincenzo and your picks.
Yep.
You could have got this far.
Yeah, Leon Rose definitely dropped the ball, and I get it. You want to bring in Bridges. You want to make Jalen Brunson happy. But to give up that many picks for Mikal Bridges, that was a terrible move, and I think they regret it, knowing that Giannis wants to lead the Milwaukee Bucks. A potential trade could have been made. All those picks, couple players for Giannis, that changes your franchise around immediately. Within a second, you get Giannis, you're possibly making the NBA Finals and maybe winning it all. So, yeah, Rose is definitely somebody you got to look at and be like, bro, you didn't have to do this. Yeah, Jalen could have took all that money. It was good for him to kind of, divide the money up, get Bridges on board and let other players eat. But you could have been like, nah, bro, we're going to hold on to these picks. I know you want to play with your homie Bridges, but we got bigger plans in 2025 and 2026 when you got those marquee superstar players that may want to lead their team. So, yeah, Rose dropped the ball and he set up Coach Tibs for failure.
And you'd be in a better position to go out there and, let's say, get a Giannis Antetokounmpo. But the likelihood of that happening is slim now. And it's just something about it that don't feel right, that don't seem right.
Nah, it's messed up.
Sham Charania of ESPN reported that the Knicks thought it was just time to move in a different direction. I spoke to sources within the New York Knicks. They're like, it's time, Stephen A. It's time. Time for what? Time for what?
They messed up.
I mean, I'm truly at a loss. Do you remember back in March when Mikal Bridges and Tom Thibodeau had a disagreement? 12 hours after Mikal Bridges said publicly that he talked privately to his coach, Tom Thibodeau, about the starters playing too much minutes and a bench not enough, the NBA's league leader in minutes capped a 41-minute overtime performance with a buzzer-beating game-winning three. 5 hours after Thibodeau publicly stated that he and Bridges never had a private discussion about the starters playing too many minutes and the bench too few. The coach put the ball in the hands of Bridges over and over down the stretch to seal the win. It didn't negate the fact that Bridges still complained. So I remember that.
Yeah, that lets you know that was the beginning of the end. No communication, the coach doing what he wants to do, running his players into the ground. That's been the complaint for Coach Thibodeau. Like, bro, you're playing your starters 45, 48 minutes a night, not getting the bench players acclimated, not developing new roles for your team. So, of course, if they didn't win a championship this season, Tibs is most likely going to be out. He is going to be the scapegoat, no matter what Leon Rose did to this roster, trading all those picks from Mikal Bridges. If one of your main players is telling you we're playing too many minutes, you may want to monitor it, and you still go ahead and play him all those minutes in the game, it was the beginning of the end for Tom Thibodeau.
I'm looking at that, and then I'm saying to myself, okay, I'm also looking at this. Tibbs in 5 seasons as the coach. This was the Knicks' statements as an organization. Our organization is singularly focused on winning a championship for our fans, team president Leon Rose said. We can't thank Tom enough for pouring his heart and soul into each and every day of being the New York Knicks head coach. Ultimately, we made the decision we feel is best for our organization moving forward. Ain't that some weak-ass shit of a statement?
Damn, Steven crashing out.
You can't tell anybody why? This is the problem with the New York Knicks.
You know damn well they ain't going to tell you the real reason why. They're going to be political about it, but you know the truth. You've been a Knicks fan. You work in media. You know the behind-the-scenes stuff going on in the NBA, so you know what's going on. But, of course, front office, Leon Rose, the owner, they're never going to give full details, full truths on why certain moves are being made and why Coach Thibodeau was fired. They're just going to try to play it political and not say anything else.
Because the fans are still going to come to the Garden. My dumb ass is still going to come to the Garden.
Of course.
Other people are still going to come to the Garden. We're going to pack to the rafters. We're going to come there and support the team, no matter what the hell they do. Because they never have to answer for anything.
And they got that fan base.
You would think you letting a coach like Tom Thibodeau go. You stand before the media and answer some damn questions. Not Leon Rose.
Never happening.
A man that I've known for decades, that I have profound respect for, that I think for the most part has done a hell of a job. But there's a couple of moves he's done that I disagree with, that I think one could argue easily compromise the success of Tom Thibodeau. You've never seen a Tom Thibodeau team play defense the way this Knicks team played defense this year.
Yeah, if you want Leon Rose in the front office to address the truths, you got to reveal your sources. Until you reveal your sources, that's when they're going to be able to reveal the truth on why certain moves are being made, why the coach is fired. Until then, they're just going to put out these statements. They got a huge fan base, one of the biggest fan bases in sports history. People are still going to tune in on TV, still pack out the house. So it is what it is. They'll find another coach, they'll make some trades, and they'll be the talk of the media in the very near future.
We all knew they weren't up to snuff defensively. We got articles coming out in The Athletic about Karl Anthony Towns and how some of the teammates thought that he wasn't all bought in. You see his size 21 feet. You see his suspect knees and legs. You think he's going to run up and down the court every single play defensively when he knows you need his offense at 24 and 13 a night?
Defense, bro.
That wasn't Tom Thibodeau's decision. That was Tibs. That was Leon Rose, I'm sorry.
He's frustrated.
DiVincenzo and Randall. Listen, I like these moves. I even liked Mikal Bridges being on the team. I didn't know there was 5 first-round picks for him at the time.
Terrible move.
But these are the kind of things that we got to live with. You would think that having lived with it, if you're going to make a decision like this, you stand before the public. And you tell them why.
Bro, you know they're not doing that. You got to reveal your sources if you want the Knicks to tell the truth. Come on, bro. You've been in the media. You've been around the NBA for about 30, 40 years. When have teams, front offices really said the full truth? It takes a while for them to get to that point. Maybe in the Knicks documentary 20 years from now, maybe the truth will be revealed, but it ain't happening. Again, they know they got the fan base. They got everything in their corner. They're just going to play it this way, And again, coaches changes, player personnel changes, all will be good with the Knicks in the very near future.
And I think the only way that you skid over that and let that go is if Ty Lue decides to depart from Los Angeles Clippers.
Ain't happening.
Or you got a Mike Malone or a Jay Wright coming into play. And I don't know that they'll do a better job than Tibs, but they both can coach. And if you had this planned all along and that was your successor, then it's self-explanatory. But if there's some coaching search and you don't know definitively who you want or who you're going to bring on board when you made this move to let Tibs go, it looks like Tibs got screwed.
Pretty much.
New York Knicks will tell you it's time, it's time, it's time. And I know somebody as intense and as intensely focused as Tibs can wear on players. I just think that when the man just took you to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, when the team wasn't what it was last year in terms of grit, because of the moves you made as the executive of the team, firing the coach is just bordering on a scapegoat status.
Of course he's a scapegoat, but all coaches are scapegoats when it's time to make changes in the organization. It's always a coach, then the front office, it could be the GM or president, and then players get traded. So it's going to start off with Tibs, and the domino effect will be Leon Rose next season if they don't make it back to the finals, East Finals, or get to a finals. And then you're going to see players like Karl Anthony Towns that could be traded this season in the summer, depending on if they can get Giannis. Maybe Mikal Bridges, if you can try to get a couple first-round picks for him. Do you try to trade him to bolster your bench, get some role players? That could be a possibility as well. Maybe they got a plan in store. We're going to fire Tibs, and there's going to be a coach out there that we can move forward with in the near future. It could have been a plan from the get-go. If you don't win a championship or get past the Indiana Pacers, we're going to fire you. So they had everything in place to get rid of Tibs. As soon as the season ended for the Knicks, people started talking about Coach Tibs. Is his job going to be on the line? There were reports that he was good, but we all knew those were lies. He was bound to go. They had to make this change in order to move forward with their future.
I'm just looking at the Knicks right now, and my question to myself is, where do they go from here?
Giannis.
That's how I'm looking at it.
Kevin Durant.
I'm just looking at things going on right now, wondering what the Knicks are and what they're going to look like this offseason. They were 51-31. They did they were the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. First back-to-back 50-win seasons in 30 years. That's Tibs. Advanced to the conference finals for the first time since 2000. Lost back then to the Pacers, by the way, in 6 games as well. I'm sorry, this one in 6 games. They went to conference finals this time. Okay? Free agents, the only ones they got is Precious Achiuwa, Cameron Payne, Lon Wright, Landry Shamet.
No,
don't get me started with Shamet, who decided to hit back-to-back threes when the game didn't matter. In game 6
played him
Saturday
more.
night. Don't get me started with that. I'll let that go.
So they got more
Your
minutes.
only draft assets in June is the number 50 overall pick from the Memphis Grizzlies. The trade with Brooklyn last June left New York with only one tradable first in the next 7 years. In the next 7 years, the Knicks only have one tradable first-round pick.
So they basically mortgaged their future for Mikal Bridges. Again, I know you want to make Jalen Brunson happy. I know you're trying to bring back this Villanova team to New York. It was a terrible move, and I think they know that. But, of course, with pride and just everything surrounding the Knicks, the owner, the GM, the president, it's not going to happen. They're not going to admit that they made a terrible decision only because they think they can get at least back to the East Finals next season. You got the Celtics without Jason Tatum, so they're going to pretty much be a 9th or 10th seed fighting to make the playoffs. Maybe they get a first round, or that's pretty much it. You got the Cavs. Who knows what's going to happen with them? Do you try to get rid of Darius Garland to get better? The Magic, they can be a decent team. The Sixers, what's going to happen with Joel Embiid, Paul George? A lot of question marks in the Eastern Conference. So the Knicks can very well be the second best team in the Eastern Conference next season to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And overall, they could be a better team than Cleveland, depending on what happens with their player personnel. So again, the Knicks, they're not completely out of it. Even if they keep this same roster and run it back, they can probably get back to where they left off at. But if they want to win a championship, there's going to have to be some player personnel changes immediately.
Top 8 protected first from the Wizards in 2026. The Knicks are allowed to swap first-round picks in 2026, 2030, and 2032 and have 7 second-round picks available.
Gotta find
That's what
some
this is.
Nikola
And just to
Jokic's.
remind you, the Knicks acquired Bridges and a second rounder from the Brooklyn Nets for Bogdanovich. 5 first-round picks, 4 unprotected, 1 first-round pick swap, and 1 second-round pick swap. Damn, you would have thought Luka or Kevin Durant was coming.
That's what I'm saying.
All of that was for Mikal Bridges,
Terrible.
who, by the way, is good but needs to improve and live up to the status that he was traded for. By the way, last June, the Knicks traded the 26th overall pick of the 2024 NBA draft to Oklahoma City in exchange for 5 second-round picks. That's how they got the 5 second-round picks. All right?
Ain't enough, though. Try to
Now,
salvage
remember the
it.
Karl Anthony Towns trade? They acquired Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a top 13. The Knicks acquired Karl Anthony Towns from the T-Wolves for 3-time All-Star Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a top 13 protected first-round pick from the Pistons.
Not a terrible trade to get Karl Anthony Towns because I think Julius Randle, he ran his course in New York. He pretty much got better offensively, but you took a hit on defense. If they had Julius Randle and DiVincenzo versus the Pacers, is it a 7-game series? Do they make it to a 7-game? Or do they lose even worse than what they did in 6 games? So it's still 50-50. Not the worst trade, but that Mikal Bridges trade may end up being the worst trade in Knicks history if they don't win a championship within the next year or two.
Just a little nuggets of notes for that one, ladies and gentlemen. The pick was top 13 protected in 2025, top 11 in 2026, top 9 in 2027, and will convert to a second-round pick if not conveyed by then.
Yeah.
Potential, albeit unlikely, trade targets are Giannis and Kevin Durant.
That's what you need.
The Knicks' likely trade chips include Karl Anthony Towns with his huge remaining contract, Mikal Bridges due for a contract extension, Miles McBride, Tony Kolek, and a top 8 protected first from the Wizards in 2026. Those are the assets that the New York Knicks have available to them because they gave Anunoby $212 million. You know you ain't moving Brunson, and Josh Hart is too inexpensive to let go of.
Well, essentially that means the Knicks are pretty much stuck where they're at. They're going to have to get rid of Bridges. They're going to have to look into trading Karl Anthony Towns. KD, he's old, he's outdated, but he's going to give you better offense, and he's a better defender than Karl Anthony Towns. So you got Giannis out there. That's automatically going to get you right back where you left off offensively, and you'll get better defensively. Run some different lineups. I think Giannis and Mitchell will be great playing together. You got somebody that's going to play defense, get rebounds. Giannis, he can focus on his offense, still play some defense. So getting rid of a Karl Anthony Towns for a Giannis, I think that's the Knicks' best bet in order to win a championship next season.
In today's market. And there you have it. So I'm just looking at it. Karl Anthony Towns, $53.1 million next year, $57.1 million the first season after, $61 million player option in 2027, 2028.
$170 million.
Knicks sizable contracts. Karl Anthony Towns I just gave it to you. OG Anunoby, $39.6 million in player option in 2028. Mikal Bridges at $4.9 million. Unrestricted free agent next year. Josh Hart, $19.5 million. Team option 2027. Mitchell Robinson, $12.9 million. Unrestricted free agent after next season. Deuce McBride, $4.3 million unrestricted free agent as of 2027.
Got to keep him. Need that point
That's what
guard.
we're looking at. That's what we're talking about. New York Knicks enter the offseason with $200 million in salary and 4 roster spots available. They're $3.8 million over the first apron and $8 million below the second. They'll get $3.5 million in financial relief if the team option of P.J. Tucker is declined, which it will be. New York has until June 29th to exercise Tucker's option and a $2 million option of last year's second-round pick.
He out of there.
This is what we're looking at.
Damn, they stuck. Can't do nothing.
It's not bad. The New York Knicks will be in the playoffs next year.
Of course.
But where you going after that?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you can make the playoffs, maybe get back to the East Finals if teams are unhealthy. So, of course, I got faith the Knicks can get at least back at the minimum to the semifinals, and they should make it back to the East Finals. Should be the second best team in the Eastern Conference. But what's going to happen after that? If Leon Rose doesn't produce a championship next season, his job is pretty much on the line. He's going to be fired. Should be no surprises if he gets fired. You're going to have a new coach in there that wants to bring in his staff. Are they going to allow the next coach to hire a staff, or are they going to do everything for him? So that's going to be another thing. So the Knicks are pretty much stuck roster-wise unless they get rid of a Karl Anthony Towns and a Mikal Bridges.
You think they're going to be better than Cleveland?
No.
You think they're not going to? You think they're suddenly going to be better than the Indiana Pacers?
50-50.
You think the Orlando Magic is just going to fade into the twilight?
Possibly.
You think the Detroit Pistons are going anywhere? They didn't have Jaden Ivey and Isaiah Stewart.
Good point.
Knicks got their work cut out for them, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yes, they do.
Now they do. It's going to be tough.
I feel bad for Tom Thibodeau. Again, I've been critical of him, wanting him to utilize his bench, which he did as the season waned because he had no choice. And his stubbornness may have gotten the better of him. And his voice, and they just may have needed a new voice. All of that's fine. But if you're Leon Rose, you don't get to just hide behind some weak-ass, meaningless statement.
You will.
You got to answer questions.
He's not answering anything.
It's not like you deserve to be fired or anything. We all know you did a damn good job overall as the new president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks over these last few years. You've resurrected this franchise. You've made them interesting and compelling. You've battled and you've fought and you've gone deep into the playoffs. Nobody's calling for you to be fired or anything like that. All we're saying, Leon Rose, is how the hell you going to give that weak statement and you don't address the media and let them know, look, man, we're trying to win a championship. We got to go in a different direction.
Then you know the answer. You know the truth. So why does Leon Rose need to say it? If you're not calling for his job, you're not calling for his firing, why do you think he would give you the answers? You know the answers. You can call the Knicks. You got him on speed dial. You can talk to him personally. You know damn well he's not going to give up the real reason why they fired Tibs and made all these trades. Again, you give up your sources and he'll tell the truth publicly on why he fired Tibs and traded for Mikal Bridges, and all those first-round picks are gone.
There are things that we should have done differently.
Of course.
We deserve to hear that. We deserve to hear how Leon Rose is feeling about this roster. How does he feel about giving up so many assets for Mikal Bridges? Why specifically did he do it, even though we all know why? Because Jalen Brunson wanted him to, because Jalen Brunson could have signed a deal a year later and got over $120 million more, but he didn't do it.
So you got all the answers. You know the truth. They're not saying the truth publicly. Stephen A. Smith knows what's going on, but I know this is all content. I know he's trying to be a Knicks fan. Maybe he is, but it's all content, bro. You know the truth, and they're not going to say it in the public.
But it'd be nice to hear. Karl Anthony Towns and the health, his knees, his feet. What's up?
Making excuses? He was happy a couple weeks ago.
They're home. I'm not losing sleep over this. I lost sleep Saturday night when they got sent home from the playoffs, and Indiana's going to the finals.
You look a little stressed out, bro.
I'm not going to lose sleep over them changing their coach. I just would like to know why, from the person I deem most responsible for all of this, in Leon Rose, why he made this decision.
You might as well say, let's fire him, bro. Just do it. Say it.
That's it. And then we move on from there.
Ain't no moving on.
Got to get on out of here. Just wanted to sound off about this New York Knicks trade, firing, of Tom Thibodeau. I don't like it.
Sleep. He don't know what he's talking about right now.
I think it's kind of messed up. I don't think a lot of people saw this coming. There's no question that Tom Thibodeau would have went home unemployed if they had lost to Boston early in the Eastern Conference semifinals.
Oh, yeah, that
they
would have
getting
been
taken out in 4 or 5 games. Tom Thibodeau would not have a job as the New York Knicks. But the minute he won that series, everybody and their mother was assuming, he'll be back.
Again, maybe they expected the Knicks to defeat the Indiana Pacers, even though roster-wise they're more complete. You know, you got Jalen Brunson, you got Karl Anthony Towns playing at an all-time level as far as like in the playoffs. Mikal Bridges, he's decent when he wants to be. McBride coming off the bench, giving you about 10 to 15 points consistently here and there. They felt as though they had a better roster. Can't forget about Mitchell, finally healthy, getting all the offensive rebounds, blocks, man in the paint. He was decent. He was good. So I guess they felt as though, our 6 or 7 players versus the Indiana Pacers 6 or 7 players, maybe they got the edge on that. But the Pacers, they got a complete team, and I think they may have not really looked into the Pacers like that. Like, you know what? It may go 6 or 7 games, but we'll be able to defeat them. But Halliburton, he really destroyed them in Game 6. He was a deciding factor. So if Halliburton plays good, the Knicks lose. So Tibs, he did what he had to do, but, they had to go in a different direction.
Especially since the challenges that the New York Knicks faced, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, was primarily because of decisions made by Leon Rose, not Tom Thibodeau.
Yep.
But that's me. We'll talk about it in the days, weeks, and months to come. I'll keep my eye on who the next head coach of the New York Knicks is going to be. I got 4 names that I want to be prime candidates for this job. Mike Malone and Jay Wright are given professionally, collegiately, with what they did in Denver and at Villanova respectively. I got that part. Rick Brunson Jalen Brunson's daddy, an assistant coach on that bench. He can't leave that bench. He has to be on that bench.
Yeah, you got to stay.
I've watched this guy have the pulse of these players. He has to be there. And if he got elevated to the head coach job of the New York Knicks, it wouldn't bother me one bit, and it shouldn't bother y'all. That would be one. That would be three. And last but not least, Mark Jackson.
Yep, that's what I want to see.
Mark Jackson. Remember that guy that essentially was blackballed, that did a hell of a job coaching the Golden State Warriors and basically prepping Steph and Clay, the Splash Brothers, along with Draymond for Steve Kerr's arrival? Remember that?
He got blackballed.
Why can't he get a look? Why can't he get a head coaching job with what he knows about the game?
There's
And
no
if
reason
not
why.
him, are y'all ready for this one? This is the fifth one, the last one that I'll throw out there for everybody to hear. How about the lead assistant for the Los Angeles Clippers by the name of Mr. Jeff Van Gundy, bringing him back? I know he didn't leave under the greatest of terms for the Knicks and back decades ago, but damn it, he's a hell of a coach.
Very good coach.
Personally speaking, I would be in support of Mark Jackson being the head coach. But if Jeff Van Gundy came back, I would be in support of Mark Jackson being an assistant. That's it. That's where I'm coming from. I want that man back on the coaching sidelines in the NBA. Nobody as productive as Mark Jackson should be ostracized from a sport like this. I would love to see him back. And I'm going to keep saying it. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, Mark Jackson being a coach, I think that should happen. You know, he's blackballed ever since the Warriors situation didn't go well. I believe he got fired to get Steve Kerr. He kind of put that team together. He was a sacrifice, and Steve Kerr inherited a great team, won 4 championships, and he's going to go down as one of the best coaches in NBA history. And Mark Jackson, it's always going to be that what if? What if he stayed another season or two? Would they have had the same success as a Steve Kerr? We'll never know, but it's time for Mark Jackson to get that opportunity. Jeff Van Gundy, a reunion back to New York, that could be good as well. Jay Wright, I know he's the coach of a college team. Coach Brunson and all those players, so that could be a possibility as well. So I'm not worried about the coach. I'm more worried about the player personnel decisions. What's going to happen with Karl Anthony Towns? What's going to happen with Bridges? Can you get a Giannis? Can you get a KD? Can you give up as least as possible to get another superstar player to at least keep Brunson, of course? You got Anunoby. You want to keep him? Everybody else can go. Jalen Brunson and Anunoby, those are the only players that you keep. Maybe add Mitchell there as well. But Karl Anthony Towns and Bridges, you're going to have to get rid of them if you want to get a better team. So we'll see what happens moving forward with the New York Knicks.